Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 357. 357. We're glad that you've taken the opportunity to grace us with your presence once more. And we'd just like to say welcome to tonight. And I'm just checking to see if there's anyone else in the background so I can bring them on. But I don't see anyone yet, so I'll take the liberty to start the preliminaries for the show for tonight. And I'll just go ahead and bow my head and say a short prayer. Divine loving Father, once again we come before thy presence, asking that thou would accept our expression of gratitude and thankfulness to thee for giving us the opportunity of life, first and foremost, and secondly, the privilege to still be alive today among our family members, friends, and loved ones, and being able to broadcast this next 357th show of the Belizean Affairs. We pray that thou must bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership, that thou would bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership, and the rest of humanity. We thank you for having given us a bit of reprieve in terms of the cessation of hostilities in the Gaza area. And we pray that thou must bless the rest of humanity, those who have wars going on as well. We pray that thou must bless our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and our significant others, as well as our brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, friends, and those who are sick and have need of thy mercies. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do a short reading. And our reading for tonight is coming from, let me see, Songs of Solomon. We'll take a short reading from the book of Songs of Solomon. And we'll read chapter 6, starting at verse 1. Whither is thy beloved gone, O thou fairest among women? Whither is thy beloved turned aside, that we may seek him with thee? My beloved is gone down into his garden, to the beds of spices, to feed in the gardens and to gather lilies. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. He feedeth among the lilies. Thou art beautiful, O my love, as Tyrsa, comely as Jerusalem, terrible as an army with hornets. And that is the end of tonight's reading. I still don't see anyone else in the background yet, so I will proceed. Tonight's program is going to come from, just give me a second here, let me come on. Just a second. Okay. And I need to download this. Okay. Need to go to item number 60. think it was 61. We did 61 already. I would like to go back into the recommendations of the PCC and continue from where we left off last Friday. Okay. Okay, so I need to go a little further. Just a minute, please. Okay, I got it. Let me turn it sideways so I can. Oops, it's too large. Okay. What we have been dealing with recently is the PCC recommendations. Yeah. What we're dealing with is the PCC recommendations, and we're trying to elucidate the public on part of the information that was proposed, and it hasn't been made fully public yet. It hasn't been discussed in the House yet, but it shouldn't take too long before it happens. And last week we dealt with the Constitution of Belize Part 4, which dealt with the Governor General. And today we're going to deal with Part 5, which deals with the executive. Recommendation number 63 reads as follows. Establishment of the executive authority. Now, everyone is aware that Belize has an executive and the executive authority and the powers vested through the head of state, the Governor General, which we dealt with last week, as well as those who can exercise that power after being assented to. As it says, they may exercise those powers after the general election and they go to be assented. And they're supposed to be given that power by the Governor General and those to whom she assent that power are her subordinates. But that is not the way it's being practiced in actual real day-to-day scenario. It appears that they like the idea that the executive powers are transmitted to them, and now that they have it, they expect and hope to be able to keep control of it. And they are now proposing in this new proposed amendments to the Constitution, by the way, under number 63, to establish the executive authority, which is a bogus statement and a bold-faced lie unto itself. That authority is already established. But bear with me for a little bit, and you'll see what is it that they're trying to get at. 63.1 reads as follows on their recommendation. Repeal Section 36.1 of the Constitution and replace it with, open quotation, the executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister. Belizeans at home and abroad, when has the executive authority of Belize been vested in the Prime Minister? Other than, as I described just now, through the authority of the head of state, in whom the in fact, let me read that. Let me let's play devil's advocate right here quickly. I don't want to make too much time pass before I get to show you how onerous and smart-headed these people are. Let me go on quick. I'll just pull up my Constitution of Belize on this next device, and I'll quickly read to you almost side by side, or at least as quick as possible, what it says and what is it that they're trying to intimate by them iterating what they're iterating there. Uh, oh, oh, hmm. Okay, I think I must have passed. I went too fast. Yeah, I did. I went a little too fast. So please pardon my making the show disjointed, but I had to try and grab this particular item here. Holy mackerel. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is part 5. Okay. In the Constitution of Belize, part 5, the, under the title of Executive, the Executive, section 36, subsection 1, it reads as follows. The executive authority of Belize is vested in Her Majesty, or in this particular case, His Majesty. I'll read now what they are proposing. They want to change that and replace it with the executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister, who is head of state. So the implication is that if they were to be able to pass this constitution into law, which is what they're attempting to do, they're not telling the public that's what they're trying to do. They're not telling the public that that's why they wanted to ask the public to have the constitution be tampered with. They're just going ahead and putting that in the constitution, the revised portion of the constitution that they want to revise, in order to be able to say, we have captured that power, and that power is no more vested in the head of state that we currently have, because we are committing sedition and we are now vesting that power in ourselves. You got to overthrow the existing system in order to grab that power onto yourself. You got to commit sedition, and you got to hope that in the process of that sedition, you don't lose your head, as is normally the case in these kind of circumstances. It's a gamble. But they're gambling on the fact that the people won't know that this is in there, and they are trying to get the people to agree to whatever they put out there by just saying, do you want the constitution changed? Yes or no? The people will say, of course, okay, well, let's go. We could change your constitution. And they will write in the new constitution this proposal. Okay? This proposal here that I open up the show with. It's already written. And it's already part of their proposal. The amendments to the constitution. They will take out section 5 and replace section 5 with something that is pliable to their end objective. And their end objective is to grab onto themselves the power that is currently vested in the head of state and call themselves the new head of state, for example, as they say here. I'll read it for you. Okay? Under section 36, subsection 1, they want to repeal and exchange that for this part that is coming in quotation that I'm reading now. The executive authority of Belize, according to the Constitution, is vested in Her Majesty or His Majesty. In their modification, it says the executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister, who is head of state. They don't say who shall be head of state, you know. Who is head of state? And that's how these rascals have been trying to run the country ever since they got the powers assented to them. As if they are the head of state. And that's why they violate the Constitution and they break the laws and they do everything that they want to do with impunity and disregard as regards to complying with what the Constitution requires of them to do under the policies of the state. No, they are the head of state and they do whatever they want without no accountability. I gave you both sides, what the Constitution currently says and what they're currently trying to intimate. From the time they started to attempt to change the Constitution, which of them, any of their lecturers, any of their lawyers, any of their member of the House of Representatives, any of their senators, anyone else other than us on this particular show have told you what is it that they're trying to do and how is it that they're trying to get it done? Watch how many years have passed by. Days, weeks, months, years have passed by. And they have not leveled with the society. They have not leveled with the country. They're all taking us for a bunch of fools. And the presumption is that once they go and get the ascension of the Governor General to pass the PCC Act as they did before, they're presuming that by the mere fact that the Governor General assented to that PCC Act, then they have the powers in that act to accept any of these recommendations, which is for all intents and purposes to get rid of the Governor General and to get rid of the head of state, and the Prime Minister is the head of state, according to this statement here. It didn't say shall be, is, because as far as they are operating the country right now, it's as if this matter here has already been put into law, and that is the status quo. I don't know why they don't see it necessary to explain to the public what is it that they're trying to do, want to do, or are hoping to be able to do. I'll read subsection 2 of the same section 63 for your benefit. And it reads as follows. Repeal section 36, subsection 2, and replace with subject to the provisions of this Constitution. The executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of the people of Belize, either directly or through the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, ministers, deputy ministers, or officers subordinate to the Prime Minister. As compared to what the Constitution says, Section 2 in the Constitution, Section 36, subsection 2 in the Constitution of Belize says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of His Majesty by the Governor General, either directly or through officers subordinate to him or her. Which is totally different from what they're basically they're trying to scrap what's here in the Constitution right now and leave out any reference to the Governor General, any reference to our head of state, other than to say that the Prime Minister is then the head of state. Do these jackals and rascals believe that just by them putting in black and white on a piece of paper, taking it to the House and assenting to it, voting it with whatever majority they think that they can muster, and then publish it in the Gazette, get it signed off by the Governor General, current Governor General, or the current Deputy Governor General, who is also the Secretary of Cabinet, and they are good to go according to them. They don't understand and remember that any law that they make has to meet constitutional compliance. Without which their laws are rendered according to Section 2 of the Constitution null and void. Anything that is inconsistent with the Constitution of Belize is null and void to the extent of its inconsistency. But they don't want to hear that. They don't care if that is in there. And maybe they don't know that it is in there. For as many dozens of times that we have said it to them, and others have said it to them, and how many times they have probably read it in there, it's immaterial to their mindset. Pretend that it's not there and create an alternate reality. The alternate reality is to ignore the laws and to just do what they want, because what they do becomes the law of the land. Even if it means transgressing the Constitution and pretending that it doesn't exist. Because any court could turn around and rule that their violation of the Constitution, which is actually impermissible, is null and void. So having it on black and white on a piece of paper, or having it on an electronic form, whichever form, for them to take 100% of the legislators and agree to make an illegal, unconstitutional ruling, it means that if it's unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. If it's unlawful, it's unlawful. If it's illegal, it's illegal. But somehow or another, it is stuck in their minds, and they want the people to accept that reality, that whatever comes out of their mind is the law of the land. Regardless of the fact that we have a constitution that is the supreme law of the land. I'll proceed to read section 36, subsection 3 of the Constitution of Belize, which says, nothing in this section shall prevent the National Assembly from conferring functions on persons or authorities other than the Governor General. That is to say, the House of Representatives does not tell the Governor General who gives them the ascension of power to do what they want to do, where to go jump. It is the Governor General that does the ascension, not the House of Representatives. Neither does Cabinet. Section 37 reads as follows. there shall be a prime minister who shall be appointed by the governor general. The prime minister does not appoint himself. Is that clear? The prime minister does not appoint himself, much less replace the governor general and the head of state and assume their powers or authority, because it is not vested in him. He has no such powers or authority vested in him. The governor general cannot give him those powers. And the head of state, he can't just walk up to the head of state and slap it out of the head of state hand or take it out of the head of state pocket. All he's doing is making a mockery of us, the Belizean, because they're assuming the posture that behind us, I see someone in the background, I'm sorry. Yes, just a minute.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Morrison.
Good
Thank
evening,
you
sir.
for gracing us with your presence tonight, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I've seen a thing from you like earlier, and
Yes.
oh, and when I went to try and put it on, I noticed it disappeared instead. So I was wondering, I thought maybe you must have been busy trying to get something else done, and so
No, I came on and I saw you were still working on getting stuff put together, so I went and
uh,
did a few little things and came
oh,
back.
okay. I'm grateful for your presence, sir. Uh, did you have a chance to hear much of any of what I was saying earlier in terms of Section 36,
No, no,
or
I
just
didn't.
this 30, or just 37?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Um. Uh. Okay. It's not a lot, so I'll just, in the interest of
No,
trying to,
you could continue with what
no,
you were saying. You don't
no,
need
but
to
it's
revisit it.
but it's critical and important, and it's a teachable moment. And I don't think the public would be too upset for me to repeat myself a little bit in this regards, because I'm talking about things that most other people are not familiar with and or have been dealing with or reading from the Constitution. Most people are not familiar, and therefore I'll take the privilege to just say Part 5 of the Constitution is being recommended to be reservated as regards to the powers vested in the executive of the country. Under Section 36, subsection 1 in the Constitution, it reads as follows. It says, the executive authority of Belize is vested in Her Majesty. And I would add, and His Majesty, as in the case where Her Majesty is now deceased, being replaced
Yeah,
or having been replaced already
yes,
by
yes.
her successor, His Majesty.
That's a given. The king, the queen is dead. The king is lives, right?
Yes, sir. Okay. So, uh, section subsection 2 of Section 36 reads as follows. Subject to the provision of this Constitution, the executive authority of Belize may be exercised on behalf of Her Majesty or His Majesty by the Governor General, either directly or through officers subordinate to him or her as Governor General. I was reading also the part that the PCC recommendation stipulates in that same area. Under Part 5 of their recommendation, the executive, their recommendation number 63 says establishment of the executive authority. That is, that they seem not to recognize that the executive authority is already established and how the functions or the process operates. Nevertheless, even presuming that that were to be the case or could be the case, they're stipulating here that under that particular part 5 of the Constitution, under subsection 63 of their recommendation and 63 1 specifically, they said repeal section 36 1 and replace with the executive authority of Belize is vested in the Prime Minister, who is head of state and head of government, and who chooses 12 ministers who shall form his cabinet. Now, I don't know where they expect to get the authority vested in them to get the powers of governance into their hands to the point where they can dispatch the Governor General, who is the only person that can ascend the powers of governance to them, as well as dispatch the Governor General's boss, who is the head of state, and making themselves the head of state without committing sedition. And having repeated myself at least twice on that particular section there for tonight, I'd just like to ask if you would contribute some of your thoughts, whether they're the same as what I was conveying, or whether they may be different. Each person is entitled to their own ideas, opinions, and conclusions, and therefore we just want to ask you to, elucidate us on your personal perception in regards to this matter. Of course, our perception will not change what's in black and white, right? Their recommendation and or the Constitution itself, because their recommendation is just a recommendation. It's not the law currently.
Yeah.
Are you up,
Um,
sir?
okay. Good evening, all, and yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity to comment on that, Mr. Leonard. I do see where those issues of the current constitution and where they are proposed to make the changes under the PCC.
Uh, I'm not hearing your voice. You lost your voice.
Okay, I don't know what's happening.
I hear it. I'm hearing you now. I'm hearing you now.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
I was saying I do see where things are going with the current constitution under the current section 36 subsection number 1 of the current constitution, and where they propose to make the changes under the PCC part 5, right?
Yes, sir. Oh, we lost your voice again.
I don't know why it keeps
Mm,
clicking off. Let me
I can hear you now again.
okay.
It goes and comes. I don't know why.
Yeah. No, I think my mic keeps switching off. But, maybe I'm hitting the key by mistake, the keyboard by mistake.
I can hear
Okay,
you clearly, sir.
okay. Yeah. Did you hear the last part that I said, or do I need to repeat again? I'm sorry.
Uh, it's a public show, so I mean, go ahead and repeat it if you don't mind. I mean,
Okay.
it's,
I was saying that I do see where under the current constitution, section 36, subsection number 1, where the executive authority is rest with our current governor general, who then acts on behalf of the of his majesty, um,
the head of state. Yeah.
King Charles as the head of state for Belize. Um, and I do see where in the PCC they are proposing to amend that portion of the Constitution so that it now, under Part 5, 63.1, where those executive powers will be transferred to the Prime Minister of Belize and to the his
Who
12
is who?
selected. Let me finish his
Yeah, sorry.
12 selected cabinet members. So in general, I don't necessarily have a problem with that, as long as it is vetted in the proper way and the proper procedure is followed to change our constitution. I don't have a problem with that. I
Yes, sir.
really don't. I generally believe that as an independent country, we
You're gone again, Mr.
we should probably seek to
Oh,
get more of our governance and management, because as it stands right now, they act as a de facto um, executive, but I've never had in the 44 years of our independence, I've never heard any intervention or any concern from the British um, from
oh,
the British
yeah.
government or from the crown as to have any concern about the way we've been acting. So if we could usurp or regain that power for ourselves to act in our own behalf, I think that's fine. I don't have a general problem with that type of motion, but I do believe that if we are going to make that type of change, it does need to be done constitutionally. It needs to be explained to us what power we're giving to, in terms, I understand what it is, but we need to understand what the executive power is that we are now transferring to the prime minister. What executive power does the governor general have that she's exercising on behalf of her majesty? And we also need to know, have the governor general in the past, whether it's this governor general or any of the two previous governor general, had any intersection of advice that came from the crown, the executive power in Whitehall, right? So
Before we skip over what the part I'm trying to get back to, is where you made mention about not having a problem with the executive powers being exercised by the prime minister and cabinet, and that executive power that they exercise, they do not authorize it unto themselves. They have no such power vested in them. So for them to write in the Constitution, by mere factor of writing it into the Constitution and passing it into Congress or into the House of Representatives, even if the Governor General were to sign or assent to it unknowingly, whether wittingly or unwittingly, that that's what she was doing, she has no such power of ascension to dispatch her boss, because she serves at the pleasure of the head of state. And she has no such authority vested in her by her appointment.
Well, we have the right to change our constitution, and if we want to change our constitution to do this, to make that change, I don't have a problem with it. I
Yes, but
think,
we need the authority. We are talking about legal,
well, it will be
constitutional,
legal. It will be
and
legal.
lawful process, on
No,
lawful matters.
I believe it will be legal if we change the constitution in the proper form. If and the proper form may be that, the, based on other advice, may be that we're changing it so fundamentally that we need to hold a referendum to make the change. I don't have a problem with the change. The vehicle of how we get the change, the constitutionality of how we need to do what we need to do to make the change is not my understanding of what needs to be done. I'm not addressing that part. I'm saying I do not have an issue in us ultimately making that change to have the vested power of executive within our own ministerial structure of governance. I do
Okay.
not believe we
Now,
need to have that in the king, in the queen, or in coming out of the United Kingdom. We can deal with those because, as I said, I don't see in any
but
issues in the past where they had intervened with the decisions and have exercised executive power over what we were doing. If
but
there is,
nobody,
let me just
Mr.
finish this one point. If
Yeah, go
such
ahead, sir.
has been done, then I believe that the we should be made aware of that. If there are reasons why our government feel that such should be done, and this is where they overrule, and this affected us as a people in some way, then they should point that out to us as part of the argument so that we can, as a people, decide with some understanding of how impacting this is to us.
But it is a lot of people in Belize, both at home and abroad, Belizeans at home and abroad, are unaware of how these things operate. And yes, we may have our own ideas and our wishes or desires, right? Or even us acquiescing to these guys doing whatever is it that they are trying to do and how they're going about doing it. Us not knowing whether it's right or wrong is less important than us being educated to the fact of what is it that they're trying to do and have us play a part to help them achieve the goals of taking our powers unto themselves under the present circumstance. They accrue powers unto themselves and they use it arbitrarily and capriciously, even against us. Imagine if we were to cede to them the level of powers to arbitrarily and capriciously, you know, have ultimate powers and no boundaries established. Basically, they could just alter our constitution to the way that they're attempting to do here, because it's not just about this executive power. There are other portions where they're basically, for all intents and purposes, neutering the legislative body, not the legislative body. I'm sorry. The oh,
Well, yeah,
I'm drawing a blank.
yeah, yeah. Well,
I was thinking about the separation of powers issue with the
yeah,
doctrine of the powers of the judiciary, and I was thinking about the judiciary. That's the term I was trying to grab a hold of just now. They are neutering the judiciary, which we will deal with on another subsequent night. But for tonight, we already dealt last week with the part of the Governor General, and tonight we're trying to deal with the executive itself.
Yeah.
That is the Prime Minister.
With the judiciary, we do have failures, and we do have issues that need to make our judiciary more independent, and we talked about that, or I have spoken about that, and I know you have spoken about it. And some of my feelings is that we need to definitely make our judiciary more independent. One of the ways to do that is to have not just the Prime Minister. He could do the recommendation, but we should have our Senate or the cabinet or somebody actually voting after the recommendation is put forward. I think maybe the Senate should be voting on these type of appointment, not just even after the selection, and the point I want to say, confirm after the Prime Minister has made the selection. I believe that for those type of individuals, the Senate should confirm them, or the cabinet, or maybe more than the consent, but also the opposition party. Just some ways of making sure that there's some type of well-rounded acceptance of those individuals in those high offices. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question. For example, how would the Prime Minister decides who he wants to appoint as the 5 people in the Constitutional Court, which will have control over the High Court and decide whether or not whatever the High Court rule on is constitutional or not? How does making those kind of changes to the Constitution, and how does the executive powers of the country being captured by the prime minister, whoever that prime minister is, whether it's the current or some other future prime minister.
Well,
The bottom line is, how are they going to acquire those powers?
well,
It's not vested in them. Are they going to negotiate?
it will be vested once we change our constitution. That's
No, but
the point.
no. It don't work like
Once
that,
we
sir.
change the people always have the right to change their constitution,
Yes,
Mr.
okay.
Brackett. We always have that right.
My point, please. My point is.
But you're making it seems like we cannot change our constitution. There's a method and a manner in which we can all change our constitution. And if we follow that method, whatever that method ultimately turns out to be, we can change our constitution. That's the point I want to make.
Yes, but I was trying to
make
a point that is, I'm trying to make a point that is relevant to how we get there. I know what they're trying to do. They are trying to.
I'm not talking.
Let me finish then. They are trying to get something done by hoodwinking the public and the process, because they don't think the public knows or should know, and they are not informing the public as to what is it that they're trying to get done.
Yeah, that's a bunch of hypothetical you're presenting.
Not hypothetical. We have
because I'm saying
it's black and white.
No, I'm saying
it's black and white. It's not hypothetical.
I'm not saying that the method they're proposing right now is constitutional, is wise, or even desirable to make these changes. The point I'm trying to emphasize is that as a people, as Belizeans, we have the right to change our constitution, and we can make our constitution anything we choose to make it, and we can reform it.
But Mr. Morrison, I'm trying to point out something to you. You've said that about 3 or 4 times, and it's not because I don't understand what you're saying. I'm trying to point out something to you.
Yeah, you're trying to take me down a different avenue, and I'm just trying to tell you.
I'm trying to say to you and the general public that if people are not honest enough to tell us, the public, who have to vote on these matters, because according to the current constitution that we have, we'll probably have to have a referendum on any major changes to the constitution, okay? Especially dealing with these substantive matters. It's not for the legislator to just arbitrarily and capriciously wield those powers in our name, and we have no part to play with it, because for them to acquire what they're trying to acquire, they're trying to use us and put us up front, okay? And they are standing behind us, like behind for we fractal, and we won't be the one that are going to be acting like sovereign citizen to acquire this sovereign power to entrust or for them to be able to wield. They cannot have us say yes or no, we want the constitution changed, and then just walk off and go change it any which way they want. We need to know what is it that they want to change. And they're not treating us as if that's the case. They're treating us as if they're going to make the changes, and whatever changes they make, so long as we say we want the constitution to change, currently they're not even trying to teach the people what we have in the constitution currently. They don't want the people to know. They have had these recommendations here for many months now. They don't want the people to even know what's in there. They want to come one fine day and just pass the stuff in legislation, and whatever they pass in legislation, it, according to them, becomes law, not realizing that whatever they pass, if it's contrary to the constitution, it's null and void. No, they want to supersede what we have right now and taking over and create something new without the powers and the authorities to do so. I'm asking the question, is it that they are going to go and have some negotiation with the head of state, for the head of state to yield that power to them, or that they are just going to arbitrarily and capriciously write this stuff into the law as they are proposing right now, and by mere factor of them writing into law, that means that it becomes, it trumps the constitution. That is not the way it's supposed to be done. That's not the way the system is set up for it to be done. But they are trying to bamboozle us into having it work out like that without us knowing any difference. That's my point that I'm trying to get across. It's an education process that I'm going through, and I'm trying to explain what is it that is being attempted, what is it that we have currently, what is it that they're trying to get, and how is it that they're going to get there. but I'm not proposing to them how to get there. And they're trying to get there incorrectly by bamboozling us. And there are people in our country who are receptive to just accepting whatever they put out there, so long as it sounds good. They need to come to us. For example, okay, let me go directly to what I'm trying to say and stop verbalize. You see this document that I'm reading from here, recommend the report that was given to the Prime Minister from the PCC. They need to make this report public for the people to go through and figure out, just as I'm trying to help the people to figure out right now, what is it that's in here, how it conflicts with the present constitution, and whether or not we want those changes to be made and forget about the old one and bring the new one. They're not even trying to get there, in a law-abiding process. They're acting like scofflaws. They're trying to hide everything from the people, but yet hide behind the people and pretend that it is the people that want them to write these things, make these proposals, and go ahead without us knowing what the proposals were and agreeing to let them just make it the law of the land. I'm saying to you, the way you are perceiving it, that they should be able to have that power, is incorrect.
No,
They
it's
don't
not
have that power
incorrect.
now.
It's not incorrect. It's not going to correct. That's where I'll stop you, Mr. Brackett.
Go
It's
ahead.
not incorrect
Go
that
ahead. Are you?
the people of Belize have the right to change their constitution.
But
That's
it's
not
not the
incorrect.
people
The
doing this, Mr. Morrison.
no,
That's where we're
Mr.
conflicting.
Brackett, Mr. Brackett,
That's
we
where our
have to
conflict
we
is,
have to
or a
rely.
difference of opinion.
It's my turn now.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
We have to recognize that if they change it, they are the people's representative.
No. That's
Let
Mr.
me
Morrison.
finish.
That's
Let
another
me
step too
finish.
far.
Let
That's
let
another
me
step
finish.
too far. Yeah?
No,
Go
it's
ahead.
not.
Go ahead.
It's
Are
not.
you?
It's not.
It's a two-way show. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a two-way discussion.
Yeah.
Are you? Sorry about
Thank
that.
you. The Constitution and the laws are at the discretion and the will of the people. The people's representative has the right to change it. There's a legal process that must be followed to make any of the changes, but they have the absolute right to change the Constitution under under the laws that governs whatever it is. And when we're dealing with substantial articles of the Constitution, then there's specific procedures that must be followed, which includes a two-third majority referendum on the matter to deal with it. And if they follow those specific requirements, then they can change the Constitution. We could one day decide we don't want the Constitution we have and put a whole new Constitution, just dump the whole thing and say we'll start scratch. And that's the right of the people. But
Sir.
no, sir, I gave you half an hour to talk. but the change must be done legally. It must involve whatever
What in your mind is
requirement.
legally? What in your mind is legally?
Legally would mean that they have a referendum that they present. That it would be best, if for me, that they present to you before what is wrong with it and what they would like to change, and that they would be straightforward with us and tell us we want to go to a
And what
republic.
is they doing?
Well,
they're still our representative, right?
no,
So
they're
whatever
still a
they do,
representative, and they still can proceed if they follow the Constitution. But
but they don't want the constitution
if
that
they
we
don't
have.
want to tell us up front what they want to do, that's just deceptive, and it creates for antagonism, and it creates for mistrust, and it creates for all those type of conditions that makes it seem like they are trying to hide something.
What
And
about when they have it here written in black and white, but they don't want us to see it? It's only privy for them, only privy to the Prime Minister as of right now, and to a few members of cabinet. It's not been made public yet. We, the public, after so many months, haven't had the opportunity to see what is it that ails them. But they're going to go ahead and make changes in our name, substantive changes. And like I'm saying, as of tonight, as of the particular portion of the program that we're doing for tonight, it's about them grasping powers that they don't currently have available to them, so that they can exercise those powers, not on our behalf, which is always the claim, because that's what a government is supposed to do, exercise the power of state on behalf of the citizenry. That's what our preamble stipulates. That's what our constitution requires. That's not what the current government or even the previous government abided by. They do what they want, and to hell with us. But my point is, are we supposed to allow these people that we elect as our caretaker to arbitrarily and capriciously use us as the gun fodder for them to gain the victory of acquiring powers that they don't currently have available to them? That's why I asked the question earlier. I asked the question,
in a
are they
democracy,
going to go and negotiate with the current head of state, for the current head of state to step down and yield to them that power? Or are they going to go ahead and just write it into law, and that law becomes that law that is null and void according to the current constitution trumps the current constitution by virtue of them writing it into law? People need to understand the mechanics of how these processes work. Not that I, for one, for example, if these people were operating honestly with the public and they were genuine, concerned leaders on behalf of the public and the country, I would probably even agree with them and maybe support them being at the head of the march for seditious activities to overthrow the current system and the current government, so we can have our own government and our own whatever. I would probably be one of those people. But I don't have the level of faith and trust in people who are acting this honorously, disgracefully to us, and taking chance of us, the people of Belize. So I will not agree with the premise, first and foremost, that they can just arbitrarily and capriciously, because we are supposed to be independent, do what the hell they want with for we country. That all of the country are not for their country alone. They are supposed to be managing the country based on the laws of the land. And the laws of the land doesn't come out of their head when they feel like or not feel like. The laws of the land is the constitution. And if they are going to, on a day-to-day basis, arbitrarily and capriciously violate the constitution, and because nobody takes them to court because they have the power of the purse, the public purse, and most people don't have no money to even feed themselves or do the daily endeavors, much less because try to fight the government, as Mr. Wade and Mr. Those are the gentlemen that have been fighting the government over the government needing to do what the constitution requires of them to do. And because they have big pocket, deep pocket, and expensive lawyers, and these people don't have money even to appeal one, and they could have judges in their pocket to throw the case and do things that judges aren't supposed to be doing in our face, and there's nothing we can do about it. We do not have the type of appeal that we're supposed to be able to have to take or wrestle away the power of executive authority from the current system that we have set up. And there was a reason why we set that up the way we set it
Mr.
up
Brackett,
initially.
we're having a one-sided conversation.
Go ahead, sir.
The Constitution, as currently structured, was handed down to us. We gave it some input when we got our independence in 81, but it was basically the framework from the British, and it was structured based on their parliamentary procedures and stuff, and it was adopted by many of the other Commonwealth countries. I think like 34 of them or something like that.
Mr. Morrison, it was Belizeans that adopted that constitution. So Belizean lawyers are the people.
I know, but it was the structure. I know that.
And that's no fault for the bamboozling that these guys are doing to us. They're taking us to the cleaners. I yield.
It was your point was well taken that it was Belizean lawyers that was involved in it, but it was structured after the Constitution. Belize has very little difference to many of the other Commonwealth countries that gained independence in the time frame that Belize did, and so our Constitution reflects that, and it reflects the colonial past that we were part of. We can and we should make changes to the Constitution, and we should make it lawfully. We should, if it is substantial changes, then that affects our fundamental rights, then the Constitution speaks of ways of how we could go about making those changes. And if we want to change our Constitution to wrestle away from the crown or executive powers, I believe we should be able to do it. And we must find the ways to do it legally and transparently. We educate our people as to why this power, when vested in the government of Belize, will be of greater benefit to the Belizean people. And if we do that, then there's no reason why we shouldn't amend, follow the proper procedures and make those amendments to our Constitution. We talked about
when you say, for example, so when you said those amendments, what amendments are you referring to? For example,
I'm talking about whatever amendment that's necessary.
But that's wide.
We're talking about the executive power. We're talking about the powers we're talking about is amendments to deal with the executive power and to create a power where the executive, a prime minister where the executive power is now vested in him. That's what we're talking about. Then the other issue we're talking about is the issue of the separation of powers within our governance: the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive. Right?
Yes, sir. Can I read something here quickly?
Okay,
please. It won't take too long. The Constitution of Belize, Section 2, subsection 1, reads as follows. This Constitution is the supreme law of Belize, and if any, just a second, I didn't make it small enough. A part of it is getting truncated. Okay. Yeah, okay. And if any other, okay, let me read the whole thing over just for clarity and consistency. Section 2 of the Constitution of Belize, subsection 1 reads as follows. This Constitution is the supreme law of Belize, and if any other law, when it refers to other law, it means other substantive laws that are made by the legislative body. Hey. How come it disappear? Come on. It's not nice. My stuff just disappeared off the screen. That's not nice at all. Okay. I got it back. Holy Toledo. Thought I lost the whole thing. Okay. Let me proceed. So when it refers to any other law, it is referring to other substantive laws that are made by the legislative bodies, okay, who are authorized to make amendments and changes to the Constitution, and if any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution, that other law shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be void. Okay? So the legislator can't get up one day.
What's the point? I'm not talking about laws. I'm talking about Constitution reform.
Just a minute, sir. The legislator just cannot get up one day and decide, you know what? We want to abolish the judiciary.
No, he cannot do that, but he could amend the Constitution and say we don't have a judiciary. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
If they amend it and say we don't have a judiciary, that's a violation of the separation of powers, which they
could create something else. No country could. They could structure it differently.
We're having a constitutional debate, and we
have because you are saying you can. You're telling me that the Constitution has the Constitution has the separation because every democracy and every society have found that they need to have executive power, they need to have a lawmaking body, and they need to have a prosecutional judiciary system to make democracy and to make any modern society work. So when we say we're abolishing things that are necessary in a normal and healthy society, it doesn't click, right?
There's what you call the separation of powers doctrine, okay, which requires that the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative are co-equal branches of government, not to be superseded.
You know, we say that, but that
other.
is never. We know that's never true. Not in America, not in Britain, not in Belize. That is never true. We hope for it. It is. It never works. We're seeing it in the great United States of America, where the executive is usurping power over the legislative, and because of its appointment power with the executive, with the judiciary, it now has amassed a great deal of power to itself for the executive. So we know these things are aspirational, right? They don't work.
Sure.
It takes goodwill, and it takes people of a certain type of conscience, but always the executive is always trying to build onto itself more power than it should. Always.
That is the reason for the basic structure doctrine and
so
separation
it's
of powers doctrine
it's
and all
idealistic.
these things. It's not
It's
idealistic.
aspirational. It's not real. It's not real in the United States of America. It's not real in Belize. It's not real in the United
Once
Kingdom.
you know your ABC and your 1, 2, 3, you never use 1, 2, 3 when you're supposed to use the ABC, or you never use the ABC when you're supposed to use 1, 2, 3, because you know the difference.
That's not even an argument I could participate in.
That's precisely what I'm trying to say to you. The way you are describing and making those statements is that to say, either because you don't know that those things are factual.
I know enough. I don't know everything.
But then I'm trying to say to you, sir, if you understand what the separation of powers is,
I understand what everybody understand what the separation of powers
not everybody.
is. Mr. Brackett. Our separation of power has never been what it proclaims or aspires to be. It has never been, and I'm pointing out to you that in the United States it doesn't meet that test.
Why would you be willing to make such a broad brush statement as to say that
it has never been?
You can get a statement out. You're willing to claim that it's aspirational that we do these things, and it has never been, but that we can actually use aspiration and bring into existence something that has never been, while we're saying it's aspirational, therefore that means that it doesn't have to exist or come about.
No, I didn't say that. I said we aspire to it.
I'm saying to you, the separation of powers is a legitimate, legal, firmly established, recognized international process and procedure and protocols.
Tell me where it has ever been that these three branches exist co-equally. Tell me where, and I'll tell you where it was taken down by one part or the other. We have seen the courts act with prejudice and behaved in ways that overrule the executive in past. We have seen legislator overact with prejudice and defy the will of the people. We have seen the executive act with prejudice at times and does what it wants, sometimes not even in the interest of the country, but with its own direct personal and political interests. They have never been.
I'm gonna repeat myself, hopefully one more time.
Don't tell me 1, 2, 3 and ABC again.
No, not that.
Okay.
That was too simplistic. I exaggerated to try and get a point across, and even then I was not able to do so. So let me evade that you know, I'll try one other way. There's a separation of powers doctrine that all democracy upholds and abides by, or at least subscribes to, okay, as their basic fundamental basis for existing as a democracy. Okay. There are what you call autocracies as well, where the strongman rule, right? To hell with the court, to hell with the legislator, and just, executive power just runs the show, In fact, in some countries, you don't even have, in fact, you have, like, for example, in the kingdoms, the king is the king, but yet they have separation of powers, but the king still overrides, just as you were indicating earlier, because the king is the king.
Yeah.
But in democracies, especially where the rule of law is paramount and it is highly regarded and recognized. That's why executive members go to jail sometimes, right, for violating the law. But whenever you're going to have a
You're missing the point, Mr. Brackett. You're missing the point. I am not saying that we don't have separation and we don't aspire to have separation and equal co-branches of government. That's not what I'm saying.
I try to stop you because I was trying to point out to you that when you say that it's just aspirational,
it is aspirational. It is aspirational because you yourself,
fundamental principle.
It might be a principle and it might be a laudable principle. It is desirable that we have those three people competing and deciding in a way that will bring about a more equitable
in the separation of powers, each group or each independent section of the separation of powers structure has its own legitimate powers and authority vested in it. The Constitution spells out those legislative powers.
You're missing the point. You're an idealist, Mr. Brackett, in terms of this. You're not being pragmatic. You're not being pragmatic in how these powers are played out. Because in the United States, we are witnessing where a president was able to stop the court. Let me finish.
You are saying that Belize and the United States are comparable.
No, I'm not saying they're comparable. That's not what I'm saying. No, that's not an argument that I'm making, and I will never make that argument.
Well, then
I'm drawing similarities between where the legislative is dependent upon the executive to gain its control in terms of who are appointed to those positions. And we see that in the United States, where the court is stacked by certain leaning type of justices. We see in Belize, where the court is being appointed and is acting in certain way with the wishes and the will of the government of the time. And this has not only been with this government, but it has been more so with this government than with past governments.
To get the point across, so let me go to the extreme then, right? Go right directly to the British system. And in that situation, it's more comparable to Belize than to America.
Of course it is, of course.
Because that's what we get. Wait, though. Let me conclude the point.
But that's what I said in the original part, that the basis of our constitution comes from the British system of governance. I said that. So you're not saying anything.
I'm saying to you that with over 1,000 years of, let's describe it the way you describe it, of aspirational.
Their system is more mature, right? Their system is much more mature than ours. We are not even the United States system could compare to theirs.
Okay, so that's why I said earlier I was going to go to the extreme to hopefully try and get my point across. My point is fundamental principles of law, lawfulness, legality in a state of law, okay, where the law is supreme. Even the head of state can be held accountable.
I'm
Even
not
the head of the
challenging that.
legislature,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah,
challenging that.
any member of the legislature under the separation of powers doctrine and the powers conferred on the court can hold any member of the executive to account and send them back to jail. That's the power of the judiciary in its own. I could have read this thing on section 20 for you.
No,
Okay,
you don't have to
to
read
answer
that
your
to me.
question.
You don't have to read that to me.
And I could have probably read section 93, 94, and 95 to you as well.
No, I
So you
don't
could
need that.
understand what is it I'm talking
No,
about when I'm making this statement. These
yeah.
things are not just aspirational, sir. They are command, they are authority, they are powers vested.
Mr. Brackett, Mr. Brackett.
It's powers vested.
The idea of separation of power is that if we have the ideal situation of appointment, if we have the ideal control of funding,
Let me use America.
if we have the ideal position of not having districts
in America,
constituencies, if we have the ideal control of not having constituencies with disproportionate representation, all those will bring about a true separation of power. But when we have all these skewed things, then we can only look at this desire for separation.
In America, you are aware, Mr. Morrison. In America, you are aware that presidents, no matter how powerful they become, can be impeached, right? In fact, the one that's been the most powerful that we know of today and claiming that he's a king or whatever, has been impeached twice. Separation of powers, sir.
Impeached but not convicted. Impeached
because of separations of powers again.
And not removed
separations
from
of
office.
powers again.
No, it's
Because
the same. It's
separation of
no, that's
powers.
not because it's the same body that did both. That's not separation of power. I know they were acting in the impeachment as an executive, as a judiciary behavior and a judiciary characteristic.
The House impeached him twice, and the Senate exculpated him twice under the separation of powers. It's not aspirational, sir. It's the reality. Powers conferred and powers, being vested and used.
Well, we'll keep this debate going, this discussion
I'm
going.
just trying to show how the powers work.
But I am clear. I'm clear under the impression and under all the facts that I know that the desire to have equal and equal branches of government is purely aspirational. It is not in most instances practical. There are times when we are able to level it up and manage it a little closer, when we don't tangle with it and create this type of great entanglement and this skewed popularity. And a very clever president we have in the United States, and that is able to call out anyone that disagrees with him, and for the most part get them to be defeated or choose not to run again because it's become so expensive for them to try and win a seat. So we have that.
That has nothing to do with the separation of powers, Mr. Morrison.
Of course, that has everything to do with the separation.
That has nothing to do with the separation.
It has everything to do with the separation because
that's politics.
It caused a skew in people's behavior and actions, and how they behave. The legislator behaves a certain way because they're challenged. The executive, not the executive, the judiciary behaves a certain way because they were appointed by this court, by this conservative legislator that they're now aligned with, but this is not the first time in American history or that this has happened. and we see, and not to drift from Belize, we see the same type of behavior where the government is exercising a great deal of influences over the executive branch of government in Belize.
The judiciary branch of government.
I'm sorry, the judiciary branch of
I
government.
understand the point.
Yeah,
The point is well taken. I just
Yeah.
want to read a little something here quickly again. The Constitution of Belize, Section 20. If any person alleges that any of the provisions of Section 3 all the way through 19 inclusive, that is to say 3, 4, 5 all the way through 19, if any person alleges that any of the provisions of Section 3 to 19 inclusive of this Constitution has been, comma, is being, comma, or is likely, comma, to be contravened in relations to him or in the case of another person who is detained. If any other person alleges such a contravention in relation to the detained person, then without any prejudice to any other actions with regards to, regards to the same matter, which is lawfully available, that person who does the alleging, okay, or that other person may apply to the Supreme Court for relief or redress. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. He didn't say the cabinet member, or he didn't say the legislative member, as in the case right now where the cabinet member, as the head of the executive, the prime minister, is trying to determine or put his thumb on the Budna case and take away the purview of the judiciary in terms of deciding whether anyone was guilty or not of a crime, such as having kidnapped the man and sent the man. But anyhow, I don't want to get into all of that. I'm more interested in...
No, that's quite fine, because you're talking again where the separation is aspirational. It should exist. It should exist. But you pointed out and presented the evidence I had that I was looking for, that while we hope to have this separation, in fact, many times it's breached. And that is one of the cases where the prime minister has breached it.
And a lot of people, they get the kudos to say, okay, he had a right to breach it. He did not have any right to breach it. It's my point. He violated the separation of powers by arbitrarily and capriciously assuming unto himself powers that is not vested in him by the Constitution. And a lot of people don't understand or realize that or recognize that.
Well,
and they're taking what he is saying for granted and working along with it and accepting it.
I agree with you thus far. I agree with you thus far, because he has failed to do some of the things that are required judiciary to deal with this case as a legal matter. I believe that the prime minister had the right as the executive of the country.
Take out the word right.
I believe he had the responsibility.
He had a reason, sir. The reason was to obfuscate.
I believe he had the responsibility then to ask the Department of Police to carry out an investigation and to give him an executive report.
He's violating the Constitution.
No. To give
him
he cannot give him a legal report as to what to do. But in terms of an executive report of how he, as the executive, could move forward as the prime minister on this matter, I believe was all within his purview. So I do not fault him on that end. What he has done,
you're making excuses for the man.
No. What he has done has created some concern for me, because I believe that report should have been made available when it was handed over by the assistant commissioner.
Not yet.
Yeah, he should have been. Let me finish.
Jumping in and preempting. for good
It should have
reason.
been handed over to the cabinet. He shouldn't have been reading it to them like they can't read. It should have been handed over to the attorney general, and it should have been made available at the same time to the director of public prosecution.
Mm-hmm.
That, I
Now you're
believe, would
talking.
have been the proper dispensation
Not only just the
and,
proper, the legal process.
and the end of his involvement in it.
He shouldn't have gotten involved.
No, he should get involved. He's the prime minister. He should get
No,
involved.
sir.
You cannot deny the man
Not
his
exculpate the man.
responsibility under the governance of this
That's
country.
why we have the separation of powers, sir. And because you're saying that the man has the authority, you're legitimizing a bastardization of our constitution, which is unfair.
No, not from the legal perspective. From the legal perspective, it needs to be turned over to the attorney general, and then the attorney general needs to turn it over to the director of public prosecution.
It doesn't work like that, sir.
That's exactly how it's working. That's exactly how it's working, and that's exactly how it should work.
Sir, unless somebody sue the government, which was likely to happen anyhow. But my point to you is that when we out here see that transgressions are occurring, there's no reason for us to make excuses for these guys.
I don't think
they're wrong. They're wrong.
I don't think
they are used to being wrong and bamboozling us.
We're over our time, Mr. Brackett.
Huh?
We're over our time. It's 8 o'clock.
1:26 right now.
8:07.
Yeah, no. Normally it's 1:30. The show it should go to 1.
Oh, okay.
Normally, but anyhow, quickly, what I'm trying to say to Mr. Morrison is the Prime Minister overreach. He came out of his legal, constitutional, managerial, or executive bailiwick or authority or cocoon or whatever we want to call it, whatever term we want to use, and overreached into somebody else's authority and power. But I really want to read this thing. That's why I'm in the search for it a while ago. No, I can read it for you, man.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Brackett.
Subject to the provisions of Section 88, all the way through 92. I'm reading Section 93 of the Constitution of Belize. Okay?
Okay, sir.
So it says, subject to the provisions of Section 88 to 92, inclusive, meaning all of those, right, from 88 all the way through 92, of this Constitution, the provisions of Representations of the People Act, Cap 9, shall apply to the franchise registration of voters, the administration of the electoral system, offenses relating to the electoral system, the conduct of election, and all matter connected therewith. 93A, there shall be established in each jurisdiction or in each judicial district of Belize, which are the 6 districts that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
A summary jurisdiction court which shall have and exercise criminal jurisdiction, and a district court which shall have and exercise civil jurisdiction. Subsection 2 reads as follows: the powers and jurisdiction of a summary jurisdiction court and a district court shall be such as may from time to time be prescribed by the National Assembly by a law made in that behalf. Section 3, a magistrate shall be appointed by the Judicial and Legal Services Commission and shall, subject to any law passed by the National Assembly, by a qualified attorney at law. A magistrate who is a qualified attorney at law, shall have secure security of tenure, and subject to any compulsory retirement age for public officers may be removed from office only for inability to perform the functions of the office, of his office.
What's the
And
point
four,
of this reading, Mr.
uh,
Brackett?
one second. There shall be for Belize a Supreme Court of Judicature and a Court of Appeal. The Supreme Court shall have unlimited original jurisdiction to hear and determine any civil or criminal proceedings under any law, and such jurisdiction and powers as may be conferred on it by this Constitution or any other law. And remember what I said when I spoke about other law in the Constitution, right? It refers to laws that the House makes. So the Supreme Court has unlimited jurisdiction, original jurisdiction, and have authority over any and all legal matters. It is not the purview of the executive to influence the Supreme Court or to decide for the Supreme Court how matters of judiciary should be dealt with, because there's no authority vested in the executive branch to tamper into that area. That's a separate power granted totally on one of the other third branches of government.
Mm-hmm. I'm not disagreeing with you with that. I agree with that. I agree that the Supreme Court has the right to look at any matter concerning the law, civil, constitutional, whether someone brings it to the attention of the court or whether it is just in the public space and the court determines it has to make a decision and a ruling on that matter.
But the court can't take it up without somebody bringing it to it.
No,
That's
of
another
course it
technical.
can. No, the court could take up an issue without.
Somebody wants to bring a
You're
case.
right, but it could encourage someone to bring a case to it. The court can make
So
that.
likewise, the Prime Minister can't take up no evidence and review no evidentiary materials that should be going to the
Well,
court.
you see,
And
I
take
think
it
that's
down
where
by
the
the
Prime Mr. Brackett, that's where we disagree. I think the Prime Minister has the executive
You
right.
don't make excuse for the man.
No. The Prime Minister has the executive right to review a matter of this nature because of as have been said, the public interest, because of the great variance of what happened.
One of these days when me and you talk in private, I'll give you the inside scoop on what is it that's making the
No,
difference.
that's fine. That's fine. That's
But
fine.
anyhow,
we'll talk about that.
I'll give you the last few minutes so you could close out for us.
Okay.
Your last thoughts on the matter.
Okay.
And your last thoughts will stand despite the difference of opinion.
You know, I do believe that as a constitutional democracy and as a country that has elected representative and as a country that where we're independent, we should in time and in ways sort of legislate ourselves out of whatever colonial control exists on our democracy at this point. There are proper legal and constitutional ways to untangle ourselves from these matters, and that's the avenue we should take to make sure that even as when Belize went into independence, we did it in a half manner that created a cloud for us up to this day as to whether we should have moved to independence at that time. No doubt we should have had our independence.
Mr. Morrison, on that specific point, could you you are closing out, and I wasn't supposed to interject, but because you brought up that specific point, I want to bring it to your attention and that of the public that I was one of those people who were in the breach at that time, prior to our independence. okay, in 1970, I think it was 73, 74, when
much earlier.
Mr. Crenshaw had came to Belize, and we got advice from, I think it was 74, no, it may have been 73. It was 73. And that decision was made that we'll not accept our independence outside of the Commonwealth, despite what Mr. Price wanted. And that was what we call the fast and bargain. He will not get independence if he could not get us to accede to him getting the independence and to work with him. And our key in that negotiation was to have him accept that, yes, we'll let him get the independence under his leadership, but he had to accede to us that independence would have been within the Commonwealth. And the basis for us making that choice to stay within the Commonwealth was because we still, as of today date now that we're talking, have this Guatemala matter hanging over our head. Okay? The British kept us in good stead for hundreds of years. And we just could not have perceived ourselves being left out there as a defenseless pauper, not being able to stand up against Guatemala or have anyone else. In other words, why would we have been leaving the British as our defense guarantee to become Guatemala's playground? And that was always the problem that we had. And for that reason, we made that choice, that fast and bargain and be surprised. Yes, we'll go ahead because the British had advised us that they could not give us the independence if we were not, cohesive at home, being such a small country.
Okay.
Sorry, are you back? So I took more time than I should have.
Okay. Well, so I just wanted to say that we have that right as a country to make these changes under our constitution, and I believe that we should do it with whatever guidelines our constitution structure provides for us to make these changes. And if we do it in such a manner, then I believe the people of Belize have those rights unto themselves to make those changes. So I'm hoping that as we move forward in all this, the government of the day, because a government is here today, a government is gone tomorrow. And so we're hoping that whatever they are doing now is not setting us up for failure, but is setting the country on a road of continued development. I don't want to see that today the government make rules under our constitution and then another government in 5-10 years come and undo those same rules because they're so aggrieved by it and such. We need to keep making these steps forward, progressing slowly and forward. And the only way we do that is by, as I was saying, is by making sure that when we are having these type of constitutional changes, that we in fact make sure that the opposition, and it doesn't matter if the PUP is the opposition or the UDP is the opposition, that they are made with the interest and the involvement of all parties, and not, as I was saying, so one-sidedly as how we went into independence, because we still suffer some of the effects of not fully coming together as a people at the time of our independence. So good night, and thank you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much for gracing us with your presence tonight, sir, and thank you for your contribution to the show. Thanks to Belizean at home and abroad. Good night. See you next Wednesday.